Some gifts are wrapped in gold, but carry darkness within. Some voices never fade, even when breath is stolen. It started as a day of joy, laughter, and celebration. But what came inside that little birthday party pack brought tears, fear, and confusion. This is the story of Amara, a child whose laughter filled a classroom, whose death shook a community, and whose spirit refused to let evil rest. Hello, my dear friends, and welcome once again to Tales by Larinzy. This is the home of inspiring life stories, stories that teach, warn, heal, and guide us in the journey of life, family, and relationships. If you are new here, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Your support means the world to me and helps us reach even more people who need these lessons of life. Now, settle in, relax, and open your heart, because today's tale will make you think twice before accepting a gift, even a simple birthday party pack. The morning sun poured through the windows of Mercy Gate Primary School like liquid gold. In Class 2B, 23 children sat at their desks, their voices creating that beautiful chaos that only a classroom of 7-year-olds can produce. And at the center of it all was Amara. Amara Okonkwo was the kind of child who made adults smile without trying. She had eyes that sparkled when she laughed, which was often, and a gap-toothed grin that could brighten the darkest room. Her hair was always braided neatly into 4 sections, with colorful beads that clicked when she moved her head, a sound her mother said was like music. "Miss Tolu! Miss Tolu!" Amara's hand shot up so fast she nearly knocked over her pencil case. Miss Tolu looked up from the board. At 26, Tolulope Adewale was one of the youngest teachers at Mercy Gate, but she had something older teachers sometimes lost, genuine joy in her work. "Yes, my dear," Miss Tolu said, smiling. "Miss, my mummy said that when we have Tomiwa's party today, I should not eat too much cake because last time I ate cake, my stomach was doing kapakpakpa." She slapped her belly for emphasis. The class burst into laughter. "Amara, the word is rumbling, not pakpakpa," Miss Tolu said, trying not to laugh. "But Miss, pakpakpa is more correct. Rumbling sounds like thunder. My stomach was not doing thunder." Even Miss Tolu couldn't maintain her composure. The entire class dissolved into giggles. Today was Tomiwa Badmus's 8th birthday. His parents, known throughout the school for their mysterious wealth, had paid handsomely to rent the assembly hall for the party. Already the hall had been transformed. Colorful balloons in gold and purple, long tables draped in shimmering cloth, a massive banner that read, "Happy 8th Birthday, Tomiwa." The Badmoss family was the kind that made other parents whisper. Mr. Badmoss owned several businesses, though no one could quite say what kind. Mrs. Badmoss drove different luxury cars each week and wore jewelry that caught the light like trapped stars. Their donation had covered the school's needs for the entire term. "All right, class," Miss Tolu announced. "Let's finish our lessons quickly so we can all enjoy the party at 1 p.m. "Yes, miss," they chorused. By 1 p.m., the assembly hall was packed. Children in their neatly ironed uniforms ran around excitedly. Parents who had come to help stood along the walls, chatting and taking pictures. A DJ played loud music that made the younger children cover their ears and giggle. Amara, in her school uniform, looked so stunning. She held Miss Tolu's hand tightly as they entered the hall. "Miss, look at all the balloons," she gasped. "I see them, sunshine." "They're beautiful, aren't they?" At the center table sat Tomiwa, dressed in an expensive agbada, looking like a little prince. His parents stood behind him, smiling widely. Mrs. Badmus wore a gold jewel that seemed to glow under the lights. Mr. Badmus's wristwatch probably cost more than most people's cars. "Welcome, welcome," Mrs. Badmus's voice rang out. We are so blessed to celebrate our son's special day with all of you. Please eat, drink, and enjoy. The food came in waves. Jollof rice, fried rice, chicken, fish, meat pies, small chops, drinks of every color. The children descended on it like happy locusts. Amara ate carefully, remembering her mother's warning, but her eyes kept straying to the massive three-tier cake at the front. It was decorated with fondant superheroes and edible gold stars. "Miss Tolu, have you ever seen a cake so big?" she whispered. "Never," Miss Tolu admitted. "It's quite something." After the cake was cut, with much fanfare and singing, came the moment all the children had been waiting for, the party packs. They were beautiful, golden gift bags with purple ribbons, each one stuffed with goodies. The Badmus parents had hired servers to hand them out, making sure every child got one. When Amara received hers, she peeked inside immediately. Sweets, chocolate, a small toy car, a coloring book, and something wrapped in red cloth. "What's this, miss?" she asked, pulling it out. It was a bracelet. Simple, made of black and red beads, with a small charm in the shape of a cowrie shell. "It's pretty," Chisholm said, showing hers. Every child had received the same bracelet. "A special gift from us," Mrs. Badmus announced with a wide smile, "for protection and blessings. Make sure you wear them." Some children put them on immediately. Others, like Amara, simply admired them. "I'll show Mummy and Daddy first," Amara said, tucking hers back into the bag. The party continued until 4 p.m. Children played games, danced, took photos. Amara's face was sticky with cake icing when Miss Tolu finally helped her clean up. "Did you have fun, sunshine?" Miss Tolu asked. "The best day ever." Amara grinned, clutching her party pack like treasure. As parents began collecting their children, Mrs. Badmus stood at the door, hugging each child goodbye. When Amara passed, Mrs. Badmus's smile seemed to falter for just a moment. Her eyes lingered on the golden bag in Amara's hand. "Did you like everything, dear?" she asked softly. "Yes, Ma. Thank you, Ma," Amara replied politely. "Good. Very good." Mrs. Badmus's hand briefly touched Amara's head, a gesture that might have seemed motherly to anyone watching. But if they had looked closer, they would have seen something else in her eyes, something dark, something hungry, something that said, "I'm sorry, little one," but it had to be someone. That evening, Amara showed her parents everything from the party pack. They laughed at her excitement, admired the bracelet, and let her have one more sweet before bed. "Thank you, God, for today," Amara prayed that night. "Thank you for the party and the cake and Miss Tolu." "Amen." "Amen," her parents echoed. She slept peacefully, the golden party bag sitting on her dresser, the bracelet still inside. By midnight, she woke up crying. "Mummy, my stomach." Mrs. Okonkwo rushed to her side. "What's wrong, my love?" "It hurts, Mummy. It hurts so much." They gave her water, rubbed her belly, thought perhaps she had eaten too much at the party. By morning, she was worse, vomiting, fever, shaking. "We need to go to the hospital," Mr. Okonkwo said, his voice tight with worry. The doctors ran tests. Nothing made sense. Her temperature kept climbing. By the second day, she couldn't keep food down. By the third day, she was barely conscious. Miss Tolu came to visit, tears streaming down her face. She held Amara's small hand, so hot it felt like holding fire. "Stay with us, sunshine," she whispered. "Please stay." But Amara's eyes, when they opened briefly, seemed to look at something far away, something no one else could see. Other parents began calling. 3 more children from the party had fallen sick. Then 5, then 8. But Amara was the worst. On the 5th day, just as the sun was setting, Amara Okonkwo took her last breath. She was 7 years old. Her mother's scream echoed through the hospital corridors, a sound of pure animal grief that made nurses weep at their stations. Her father stood frozen, unable to process that his daughter, his joy, his sunshine, was gone. Miss Tolu collapsed outside the room, sobbing so hard she couldn't breathe. And in that moment, something shifted in the spiritual realm. A little girl's spirit, confused and frightened, didn't understand why she couldn't wake up, why her mother was crying, why everything felt so strange. But she would understand soon, and when she did, heaven itself would tremble at her cry for justice. The news spread through Lagos like wildfire. Child dies after school birthday party. Within days, parents were demanding answers. The school was in chaos. The headmaster gave statements. Health officials investigated the food, the venue, everything. But the other sick children began to recover. Only Amara had died. And then the whispers started. It was that teacher. Miss Tolu was always too close to that child. She was jealous of the Badmus family's wealth. I heard she gave Amara something separate from the other children. The rumors grew like weeds in a garden, wild and choking. Someone claimed they saw Miss Tolu give Amara a sweet. Someone else said Miss Tolu had been acting strange that day. The lies built upon lies. Within a week, Miss Tolu was arrested. She sat in the police station, numb with shock and grief, as officers questioned her again and again. I would never hurt her, she kept saying. I loved her like my own. Then why did only she die, Miss Adewale? Why only Amara? She had no answer. How could she? She didn't understand it herself. The Okonkwo's, drowning in grief, didn't know what to believe. Their daughter was gone. Someone had to be responsible. The police said it was the teacher their daughter had loved so much. She was always with Amara, Mrs. Okonkwo said through tears, always giving her special attention. Maybe. No, Mr. Okonkwo said firmly, but even his voice carried doubt. Miss Tolu was released after 3 days, not enough evidence to hold her, but the damage was done. She couldn't return to school. Parents threatened her. Children who had once loved her now feared her. She stayed in her small apartment, crying until she had no more tears, praying for understanding that wouldn't come. Meanwhile, the Badmus family grieved publicly. They sent a large donation to Amara's funeral. They gave speeches about the tragedy. Mrs. Badmus was seen crying at the burial. No one suspected them. Why would they? They had lost nothing. Their son was healthy. Their wealth had only grown. In the 3 weeks since the party, Mr. Badmus had closed 2 major business deals. Mrs. Badmus had acquired a new property. Money flowed to them like water to the sea. But at night, in their grand mansion, strange things began to happen. It started small. Tomiwa would wake up screaming, "She's here! She's watching me." "Who, my son?" Mrs. Badmus would ask, her voice tight. "The girl, the one with the beads in her hair. She says it's cold. She says she wants to go home." Mr. Badmus dismissed it as nightmares, trauma from losing a classmate. They hired a therapist. But then the money started disappearing. Not all at once, but stacks of cash in the safe would turn to ash overnight. Mrs. Badmus's jewelry would tarnish and crumble. A brand new car developed problems no mechanic could explain. "It's just bad luck," Mr. Badmus said, but his voice shook. Then came the footsteps. In the dead of night, they would hear small feet walking through their house. Click, 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 like beads tapping together. Down the hallways, up the stairs, into Tomiwa's room. The boy stopped sleeping entirely. "She won't stop talking to me," he told his parents, his eyes hollow. "She says it wasn't Miss Tolu. She says it was the bracelet. She says you knew." Mrs. Badmus's blood went cold. "What bracelet?" she asked carefully. "The one from the party pack. She says you gave it to all of us. But hers was special. Hers had her name on it." Mr. Badmus stood up abruptly. That's enough. These are just dreams, but even he had seen things. Shadows in the shape of a small child, the smell of strawberry lotion, the kind Amara used to wear, in empty rooms. And once, just once, he had seen her, standing at the foot of his bed. A 7-year-old girl with beaded braids, wearing a pink dress with flowers. Her eyes were sad, not angry. That somehow made it worse. Why? The apparition had whispered. Why did it have to be me? Then she was gone. Mr. Badmus didn't sleep that night, or the next, or the one after that. Miss Tolu had not slept properly since Amara's death. When she did drift off, nightmares consumed her. But one night, 3 weeks after the funeral, she had a different kind of dream. She was in her classroom. Sunlight poured through the windows, and sitting at the front desk, swinging her legs and smiling, was Amara. "Hi, Miss Tolu," she said brightly. "Amara," Miss Tolu's voice broke. "But how are you?" "I'm okay, miss. I'm not scared anymore. I understand now." "Understand what, sunshine?" Amara's smile faded. "It wasn't you, miss. It was never you. It was the bracelet in my party pack. The one with the red cloth. Mummy put it under my pillow because she said it was a blessing. But it wasn't a blessing, Miss Tolu. It was something bad." Miss Tolu felt ice run through her veins. The party pack? From Tomiwa's parents? They went to see a bad man, miss. A man who does bad things with magic. He told them they needed the innocence of a child their son knows. They didn't want to use their own son, so they chose someone else. They put special bracelets in some of the party packs. Mine was the one. It had my name written inside the charm. That's why I got so sick and the other children didn't. "Oh, God!" Miss Tolu's hands covered her mouth. "They took my life to get money and power, miss. But I'm not staying quiet. I need everyone to know the truth. I need you to know it wasn't your fault. You loved me, Miss Tolu. I felt it every day." Tears streamed down Miss Tolu's face. "I did, sunshine. I still do." "I know." Amara's smile returned briefly. "Tell my mummy and daddy I'm okay. Tell them I'm not alone here. Tell them it wasn't anybody's fault except the bad people who did this. How will I prove it? Who will believe me? The truth always comes out, miss. Always. Even if it has to shake the earth to be heard." The dream faded. Miss Tolu woke up gasping, her face wet with tears. But for the first time since Amara's death, she felt something other than despair. She felt purpose. The Badmoose mansion had become a house of horror. Tomiwa stopped eating. Dark circles ringed his eyes. He talked constantly to someone no one else could see. "She won't leave me alone," he screamed. "She says I have to tell. She says if I don't tell, she'll take me with her." Mrs. Badmus had stopped wearing jewelry. It all turned black against her skin. Mr. Badmus's business deals kept falling through at the last second. The wealth that had poured in was now pouring out. But worse than the financial loss was the spiritual oppression. They couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't find peace anywhere in their own home. The sound of clicking beads followed them everywhere, the smell of strawberries, the glimpse of a small shadow in pink. "We have to go back," Mrs. Badmus finally said, her voice hollow. "We have to go back to Baba Alao." Baba Alao was the herbalist they had consulted months ago, the one who had given them the charms, the one who had promised them wealth beyond measure. They drove to his compound in desperation, their son listless in the back seat. "Baba, help us," Mrs. Badmus cried. "The child spirit won't leave us alone." The old man looked at them with something like pity. "I warned you. I told you there would be consequences. You cannot take innocent life without paying a price." "We paid you." "We did the ritual exactly as you said. The ritual worked. You got your wealth. But the child's spirit is pure, too pure. She has heaven's attention now. No charm I have can protect you from that. There must be something, Mr. Badmus pleaded. Baba Alao shook his head slowly. Only truth can set you free now. Confess what you did. Face the consequences. It's the only way to appease her spirit and save your own souls. Never, Mrs. Badmus hissed. We'll go to prison. Then you'll live in a prison of your own making, the herbalist said simply. One with no escape. They left his compound more desperate than before. 2 days later, the Badmus family attended a church service, something they rarely did. They had tried everything else. Why not God? The church was full that Sunday morning. The pastor preached about hidden sins and the importance of confession. It was a standard sermon. But to the Badmus family, every word felt aimed directly at them. During the altar call, something broke inside Mrs. Badmus. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was the weight of a 7-year-old's death pressing on her conscience. Maybe it was the glimpse of Amara's face she saw in every child in the congregation. She stood up, shaking. Pastor, her voice cracked. Pastor, I need to confess something. The church went silent. Mr. Badmus grabbed her arm. Sit down, he hissed. She shook him off. I can't anymore. I can't. She walked to the front, her legs barely holding her. The pastor approached cautiously. What is it, sister? And then, in front of hundreds of witnesses, Mrs. Badmus confessed everything. The visit to the herbalist, the charm bracelets, the specific targeting of Amara because she was always happy, always loved, always pure, the perfect sacrifice, the ritual that promised wealth in exchange for a child's life, the party packs, the deliberate murder disguised as a birthday gift. The church erupted, screams, shouts, people rushing forward. Someone called the police. Mr. Badmus tried to run but was stopped by church ushers. He broke down, admitting his part, begging for mercy. Tomiwa sat in the pew, rocking back and forth, whispering, She said to tell. She said, tell. Now she'll let me sleep. Within an hour, police had arrived. The Badmus parents were arrested on the spot. The confession had been recorded by multiple phones. There was no denying it, no escape. The news exploded across Lagos. Wealthy couple confesses to ritual murder of 7-year-old. Miss Tolu heard it on the radio and collapsed in relief and grief all at once. She had been right. Amara had been right. It wasn't her fault. The Okonkwo's heard it and experienced a grief so profound it had no words. Their daughter hadn't died from illness. She had been murdered, deliberately, sacrificed for money. His mind unable to process such evil. The authorities investigated thoroughly. They found the herbalist who confirmed everything. They found the remaining party pack charms, which tested positive for dangerous herbs and substances. They found financial records showing the sudden wealth the Badmus family had acquired. They found Amara's bracelet in her bedroom, still wrapped in red cloth, under her pillow where her mother had placed it, thinking it was a blessing. The trial was swift. The evidence was overwhelming. The confession was recorded from multiple angles. Mr. and Mrs. Badmus were sentenced to life in prison. Their son Tomiwa was placed with relatives, traumatized and broken. Their wealth, all of it, was seized by the government and given in trust to Amara's parents, though no amount of money could fill the void she left. Miss Tolu was publicly exonerated. The school board apologized. The parents who had accused her apologized. But the damage to her heart remained. And through it all, the spirit of a little girl watched from somewhere beyond sight. Watched as justice was served. Watched as truth finally emerged from darkness. Watched, and finally began to rest. 6 months after the trial, on a quiet Sunday morning, Miss Tolu visited Amara's grave. It was a simple stone in a modest cemetery. Amara Okonkwo, our sunshine, our joy, 2017 to 2024. Miss Tolu knelt and placed fresh flowers, pink roses, Amara's favorite. "Hi, sunshine," she whispered. "I hope you're okay wherever you are. I hope you're not cold anymore. I hope you're surrounded by light and love and all the things you deserve." A soft breeze stirred the air, carrying the faint scent of strawberries. Miss Tolu smiled through her tears. "I miss you every day. Every time I'm in the classroom, I look at your empty desk and remember your voice, your laugh, the way you always had something to say." The Okonkwos approached from behind. They had healed some, though the wound would never fully close. They had started a foundation in Amara's name to protect children from ritual abuse. It gave them purpose. It gave their grief meaning. "Miss Tolu," Mrs. Okonkwo said softly. The two women embraced, both crying, both healing. "She loved you so much," Mrs. Okonkwo said. "In the end, she made sure everyone knew you were innocent. Even from beyond, she protected you." "She was special," Miss Tolu replied, "more special than anyone knew." They stood together at the grave, three people bound by love for one small girl who had changed all their lives. As they turned to leave, a small girl's laughter echoed on the wind, faint, musical, joyful, the sound of beads clicking together. They all heard it. They all smiled. Amara was free. Amara was at peace. And somewhere in a realm beyond human sight, a 7-year-old girl with beaded braids danced among angels, finally warm, finally safe, finally home. Her innocence had spoken from the grave. Her love had brought justice, and her spirit would never be forgotten. They gave her a party pack wrapped in gold, but death was nestled inside. They took her laughter, her breath, her future, but they could not take her voice. Even from the grave, innocence speaks. Even from beyond, love fights. And evil, no matter how it hides, will always be dragged into the light. Rest in perfect peace, little Amara. Your story will echo forever. Home times, the gifts we receive carry more than joy. They carry hidden intentions. What happened to Amara is a warning to us all. To be prayerful, to be discerning, and to be mindful. If this story touched you, drop your comments and share it with someone who loves powerful African tales. Don't forget to subscribe to Tales by Larinzy for more spiritual, cultural, and moral stories from across Africa. Until next time, remember, every gift isn't a blessing.